So there's another tense standoff in Oakland. But the movement has deteriorated along with the conditions of the tent cities. And not unlike the hippie protests of the 60s, real life has crept in here and has taught these kids some valuable lessons, such as when you offer things for free, they have no value. When you don't work for something, it's cheapened. There are people in this world that are just going to give you things, even if you demand them. And there are people in the world who look to prey on the weak and the idealistic, which is what occurred in these camps. Charles Cook of the Wall Street Journal says, even in the tent city where it all started, even that's falling apart. He says, Occupy Wall Street has started to crumble. Whether or not Occupy Wall Street movement is a legitimate and coherent purpose or not, he says, we can all agree on one thing. Regardless of one's views about its message, the camp itself has become a disgrace. If this is utopia, then deliver us from it, for imperfection has a fresh and heady appeal. For an organization whose rhetoric casually claims unity, and which absurdly considers itself to be the mouthpiece for 99% of America, it's devastating that division and infighting increasingly mar the Occupy Wall Street movement in New York City. The kibbutz has fractured. Walking around the site yesterday, it was clear that one world has become many. There are now palpable borders within the commune, and battle lines have been drawn. They're fighting within them, amongst themselves. The original protesters resent the hangers-on and the latecomers, as early fans of a rock band might hate those who discover their heroes only after they've become popular. As always, the hardliners despise the reformers and those who would compromise with capitalism, and the anarchists predictably reject all such labels entirely. Meanwhile, an unfathomably asinine dispute rages over whether the movement should seek to represent the 100% or the 99%, with few taking the time to consider whether it actually does either. The homeless, much praised on placards and flyers, have clearly proven themselves useful only in the abstract and have become a rather less attractive proposition now that they have joined the fray, bringing with them something of a crime wave. Where unity does still exist, it is in the universal hatred felt toward the belt of crazies that surround the camp. It's largely reserved for anyone who makes us look bad, they say. Thus, in hushed tones, each faction complained to me about the others, he said. Moreover, Occupy Wall Street has discovered that this is by no means inured against the sort of political and economic problems that face all polities, utopian or not. A fistfight broke out yesterday on the testy northeastern side of the camp when one protester fashioned and displayed a cardboard sign that read, "Food is for OWS only." This, said some of those camped nearby, was fascism. No, came the rejoinder. It's only fair. We paid for it. It's for us. You can't just walk in and take our stuff. And thus, Charlie Cook says, in microcosm, the debate over welfare raised its head, as it always will. Likewise, there's growing consternation over the camp's finances. The more than $500,000 that OWS has raised from supporters is in the hands of a shady 8-person finance committee, which is made up of non-occupiers, and thus becoming like the banks we're protesting. They're becoming like the banks they're protesting. Most of the money, the gripe goes, is just sitting around doing nothing. Worse still, some of the outrageous fortune has found its way to Amalgamated Bank, which has the temerity to deal with billionaires. Then there's the crime, he concludes. Even as Zuccotti Park has become a sea of troubles, it has been regarded as unsporting to bring up its obnoxious elements, as if a report on the dark side is to tar all associates unfairly with the same brush. But the unpleasant are demonstrably in attendance and are no longer necessarily in the minority. I asked a press representative named Justin how many of those in the park he considered to be genuinely part of the movement, and was surprised to hear him say less than 50%. Such a confession makes the "we are the 99% chant seem somewhat comical, but then it always has been. That's Charlie Cook from the National Review. I think I said Wall Street Journal. It's from the National Review. Yeah, the replacement society is crumbling ignominiously around them, he says. What a shock. Let's hope that in a few weeks they'll be back in their mom and dad's basements, sleeping late and playing Xbox. And for the rest of us, I'm sure you're as shocked as I am that their vision never took hold. A world with no money, no banks, no rich, no poor, just all of us existing together in harmony. Somehow that didn't work.